Okay, we'd like to call to order the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission September 8th, 2025 meeting. Ms. Vergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme.
Here.
Ms. Strang.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Here.
Ms. Belofsky.
Here.
Ms. Gomes.
Here.
Ms. Gold.
Present.
Mr. Bill and Calhoun.
Here.
Chairman Darpino.
Here. Okay, next up is the approval of the August 25th, 2025 meeting minutes. Make it a motion.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Moved by Ms. Belowski and seconded by Ms. Strang. Any comments or corrections? I had none. Seeing as there's no discussion, all in favor of the August 25th, 2025 meeting minutes, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Next up is public hearings. We have no scheduled public hearings, so we'll move directly to privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is open to any resident of the town of Niskayuna. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone is present. Wishing to speak at privilege of the floor. Did we have any correspondence, Laura?
Yeah, we received one email from Natalie Tiberio, which I forwarded to you guys, just concerned with protecting the wetlands around Seneca, making sure that drainage doesn't go on to Seneca Road or make the existing situation worse, and just expressing concerns that anything that's done doesn't make the situation worse. So that's all forwarded to you guys.
Okay, good. We'll enter that into the record. Okay, seeing as no one else is present or there is no other correspondence, we will close privilege of the floor. There is no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business. First up is Resolution 2025-24, a resolution for approval of a subdivision amendment regarding drainage at Seneca Road Subdivision, 7 Seneca Road. The project lead is Mr. Khan. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that this Planning Board and Zoning Commission does hereby grant minor subdivision approval for a revised 3-lot subdivision at tax map parcel 50.1-7.1 and 51.9-2-1.1, as shown on a one-page plat drawing entitled Subdivision Plan River Road Subdivision, Town of Niskayuna, Schenectady County, New York, by Engineering Ventures PC dated 3/13/24, with the most recent revision status of revision 3 dated 7/21/25, subject to all the conditions, including the Planning Board Resolution 2024-05 and the following conditions. 1, prior to any additional site disturbance, a final letter of approval shall be received from the town designated engineer regarding all engineering and draining aspects of the site plan. 2, prior to any additional site disturbance, any engineering, sewer connection, and drainage concerns will be addressed to the satisfaction of the town superintendent of water, sewer, and engineering. And 3, prior to amending the plat, any minor textural changes to the subdivision map will be addressed to the satisfaction of the town planning department if necessary. May I get a motion?
Motion.
A motion by Mr. Khan. I will second it. Okay, we'll open it up to discussion. We have a representative here for the applicant.
Yep, Mike Dussault, Engineering Ventures.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Dussault, I think we're in a good place. We've got the letter from the TD, your responses to the letter from TD, his responses back, right? And they're all in the documentation. Is there any comments or additions that you wanted to make to anything?
No, I think we worked out all the concerns and issues that were presented from the board and from the TD. I think we're all on the same page with the design and
Okay.
Move forward now.
Agreed. And in summary for the record, and also to, address some of what we heard from the public, from the neighbors, right? So now we've got quote unquote, affirmative positive conveyance across the property in the culvert to the wetland area, right?
Correct.
We also have a swale that protects the road. And we also have enough engineering evidence and calculations that shows that in case of any blockage of the culvert, it will become an obvious problem to the property owner first, based on the driveway, what's going to happen on the driveway, right? So I think all these things put together, the fact that the TDE has come back with the conclusions they've come back with. I did speak with Laura also. The town water department is okay with this.
Yeah, engineering did say
Right.
that as long as it went through the process, they are supportive.
Right. So there is one minor thing I discussed with Laura today. This will be an added condition, but there's no surprise. The TDE had made a recommendation. It's something that we typically don't do. So on page 2 of the TDE's letter, that's HydroCAD model 1B. He did state, quote, "We recommend that the town require an as-built survey of the swale so that it can be checked in the future if it begins to silt in." All right, so that as-built, et cetera. So that, I'd like to add that as-built survey as a condition onto the resolution. We can do that here today and continue with the passing of the amended resolution. Does that sound reasonable to you, Mr. DeSalt?
It does, and I talked with Mr. Lucy, who wasn't able to be here tonight. He agreed he agrees to that condition, so.
Okay. So Laura, I think, so Chairman and Board, we'd like to just make an amendment to adding a condition to the resolution. And we could take it verbatim from what's in the TDE's report, right? It's really page 2 of the TDE's most recent letter. Really, it's the last sentence on that page.
Sorry, my computer is just booting. This is very cumbersome. Yeah, right here.
Okay.
So the town would require as built of the swale so that it can be checked in the future if the, yeah, so this sentence right there.
Yep.
Okay.
And Laura, I apologize, I didn't catch that before this meeting, but we got it now.
Yeah, no, I think it's good.
I'm sorry for the live suffering, but
Yeah, I think we could enforce it even without the condition, but the condition makes it much cleaner and easier for us.
Yeah, I think Mr. Lucy, he thought it was part of the condition for CO to have a survey done.
Yeah,
So they would pick that up as part of the information.
Okay.
all right. So we have an amended, did we do
So
this?
we have
you have a motion.
we have a motion to
Amend.
amend.
Move to amend,
Mhm.
second, vote on the amendment, then vote on the amended resolution.
Right.
So move to amend the resolution.
Any other further discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to mention, I remain uneasy with the change. Maybe it's just the way it's written, but it suggests to me that this is acceptable, but not necessarily best practices. And I wish I were assured that it was a best practice. I would hate to be pushing through something that's still questionable, and that would leave the town with more issues down the road. And I'm still mulling this over.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the resolution with the following statement. The town require an as-built survey of the swale so that it can be checked in the future if it begins to silt in and requires cleaning to restore the full capacity. May I get a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Strang. All in favor of the amended number 4 condition, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Unanimous vote. Okay. So it looks like if there's no further discussion, we have Ms. Bergami, please call the roll.
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Strain?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. Belowski? Ms. Belowski, sorry.
Aye.
Ms. Gomes?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
No.
And Chairman Darpino.
Aye. Passes 6-1. Thank you. Next up is a recommendation to the ZBA for a new pavilion at the Glen Eddy number 1, Glen Eddy Drive. I volunteered to be project lead on this. Do we have representative from the applicant here?
He's
Mr. Tierney, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good, good. Okay, so to bring everyone up to speed, the since the planning board review, planning department took another look at this, they found out that the pavilion actually has a height issue that is going to require recommendation to the ZBA. So currently, it's 6.5 feet too high as originally shown. Thank you, Ms. Robertson, for the, it's right there. So Mr. Tierney, you had a chance to take a look at the packet. Are you good with moving forward with this pavilion the way that it's designed? Did you consider shortening it to not have to go to the ZBA? Were there any requirements? Was there a reasoning to stick with that, just so we can have the board updated?
Yeah, we did decide to proceed with the ZBA application. We wanted to maintain that roof height of 21.5 feet, just so that it would better blend in with the existing building. So that's the reasoning behind requesting the variance from the ZBA.
Open up to discussion.
Just for clarification, how did we miss it in the application? It was just missed, or?
I mean,
I
it
mean-
sort of looks like it's attached to the building, and the buildings can be 35 feet high. It was only when we were really getting to like classify it as accessory structure and work with the building inspector that we realized that it was over 15 feet. It's so close up against the building. It doesn't actually stand out to you that it's more than 15 feet, but it is.
But it does allow a roof that will allow runoff very readily and still maintain a height so that there's better acoustics
Yeah.
within the structure. And it is interior to the Eddies, so I don't think any neighbors are going to be bothered by its presence at that height.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
I mean, if it was attached to the building, it could be higher, but it isn't.
And this isn't visible from the road, if I remember?
Correct. To recap, it's on a existing concrete slab that's currently there. I believe there's a tent structure that's temporarily erected. Power is out there, and there's no impact on the utilities as well. Okay. All right. So if there's no further discussion, we'll go to the ZBA referral. So for each of these referrals, we asked 3 questions, and the first one is the effect on the comprehensive plan. I would recommend that there is no effect on the comprehensive plan. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 7-0. Next up is suitability of use. So I would say that the project is suitable for the proposed use on site as a seasonal pavilion. And I would state the following observations. Number 1, it's self-contained behind the building and it's not visible from the road. Number 2, there's an existing concrete pad in place. And number 3, that there's no additional impact on the utilities or infrastructure of the building. It's just currently an upgrade.
Yep.
Open that up to discussion.
And I think I would also add that, the nature of the Glen Eddy, the clientele that it serves, the concept of space and openness, right? Even if it's additional height, is a good thing.
Okay. So all those in favor of suitability of use based on those 4 conditions, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then last, the recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. I recommend that based on the aforementioned items that we discussed, we would be recommended to the ZBA to approve the proposed 6.5 feet high pavilion accessory structure. Okay. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-2. Good. So they'll place this on the next agenda for the upcoming ZBA scheduled date for that.
It's gonna be, no, I don't know it off the top of my head, so it'd be the October meeting.
Um,
Just a question for Mr. Tierney, you're still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Is the plan to do the construction in the fall, or will you wait and sit on this for the spring?
We are going to make every effort to do the construction this fall.
Okay.
Well, we'll be hearing from you soon.
All right.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that completes new business. So next up is discussion items. First up is 2757 Aqueduct Road, Niskuna Harbor. An application for sketch plan approval for a planned unit development. Project leads are Ms. Strang and Mr. Laflamme. Mr. Steenberg, welcome back.
Good evening. Brett Steenberg, Steenberg Consulting Engineering. I'm here on behalf of Niskuna Harbor LLC. Their proposal for the Niskuna Harbor condominium development located along Aqueduct Road. Also with me here this evening is Chuck Pafundi with the development team. We were here several months ago, and what we got back, we got some great feedback from this board about density, how many units, building proximity, and how close they were together, improving upon the open space, adding amenities, that type of thing. So what we've done is we did go back and we took a look at redesigning the site. I think we reduced almost 50 units. We were, I think, 202 or 204 units. We're down to 152 units now through the reduction of just opening up the site a little bit more. And a big part of that was opening up the existing pond area and eliminating those units that were along the pond to provide that as like a community access and community space, and actually have the pond, which is actually very nice, as an amenity to the site. We did mix up some of the units as well. The units located out along Aqueduct Road actually will be 4-unit townhome buildings instead of condominiums. So very slight difference between a townhome and a condominium. On a townhome, you actually own the property underneath each home. Condominium, you just own what's inside your 4 walls. You can't do that with the up-down condominiums because obviously on the upper levels you don't have property underneath you. So, but these all are, your typical townhome, almost row house style units along Aqueduct Road, and we think that would actually complement Louise's, which is just to the east of this site, Louise's senior housing center, which actually was designed kind of with that row house styling in and of itself. It's much larger in scale in one large building, but it kind of had that styling. So we felt having these units, they'll also have walkout basements. So there's going to be plenty of floor space and plenty of living space within those units. So there'll be 20 of those located along Aqueduct Road. That likely would end up being the first phase of the project to get in and build those units right along Aqueduct Road. And then, as you can see, we did change the road layout and the configuration of the buildings as you go back into the site with the 4 units, 4 units and 8-unit buildings, spreading those out a little bit more to kind of create a little bit better space. You can see that one dark line around the inside being pedestrian access, a sidewalk along the edge of the road to allow those people to access the smaller building on actually just to the right as you come across the bicycle path. We're proposing as a clubhouse, small top play area, probably some amenities in the clubhouse as far as, meeting room, fitness room, that type of stuff. Nothing crazy, but given the size of the development, we feel that, it does warrant those types of facilities. Thank you. And then, some walking paths as you walk around, along the pond and kind of opening up again, that whole area in front of the pond, so that, people can utilize that green space. The one thing, and we'll have to talk with Laura and looking at that, I would like to get a walking path within closer proximity than 25 feet to the shoreline of that pond, just for access. And I think it would be a nice feature. However, under the erosion and sediment control regulations with the town, and you can't build anything within 25 feet, but looking at possibly some sort of wood chip or stone dust path, possibly nothing, not concrete, not major, but something so people can feel comfortable accessing that area in and around. We do have a dog park shown that actually encroaches on some of those 25-foot areas. I don't know, again, that's something we'd have to discuss, but kind of nestled in the wetland areas there. And then, we did show some amenities as far as the walking paths around the site. We do show down further on what would be the northwest side of the site, a parking area, and it would be a pretty good haul trail, but to get to a kayak launch at the river itself. I mean, people would have to, kayaks are not that heavy. I haul them all over up at the lake. But would have to look at the, accessibility down that slope as well and pick out a place that would be most accessible to be able to bench in something that wouldn't be an issue for people to get their kayaks down to the river, to allow them for public access to that location. So they're not trying to utilize the launch up by the boathouse, which I know I think has been said it's public, but it offers its difficulties during the year with the rowers and such. We are still proposing the 11-acre parkland, which is all the property on the north side of the former barge canal right away that runs through there. And that would be, in my opinion, a excellent extension of the existing Aqueduct Park, which runs along the river from the boathouse through to the termination of Louise's project, which is just east of this site on the other side of the power lines. Obviously, there'd have to be some cross-access easement from the power company to allow for pedestrians and utilizing the park to be able to utilize this section of the park as well, because you'd want to be able to have that continuum of parkland. One thing we did submit and prepare for the town was the crossings package for the bike path crossing, and we would, if we feel comfortable, we're at a point where we would like to start making application, because we know that that's a timely process to get that moving forward with that crossing. It would be an at-grade crossing, typical to what is at the locations for Rivers Ledge, with the stop signs and the warning signs both on the bike path and on the roadways regarding the bike path. We feel, again, this is something we feel comfortable that we should be able to obtain from parks. This would be our only avenue for a crossing, and the developer has spent time and money to make sure that he had a second means of ingress egress out through the Rivers Ledge, because knowing that any project of this size would require that second means of ingress egress rather than having two crossings on the bike path like you see at Rivers Ledge. It allows us to utilize one of those crossings for our emergency access. As far as utilities, we do have access to the sanitary sewer, the low pressure sanitary sewer, which was recently installed along Aqueduct Road. The water has been looped. All the lines have been looped along Aqueduct Road. There was a short section where the two areas were not connected. The Rivers Ledge project did make those connections and installed a pressure reducing valve on Balltown Road to separate those two zones out from the low pressure to the high pressure to help alleviate some of the pressure concerns down here lower in the valley. And we would have access to the water right on Aqueduct Road. Again, all roads would be privately owned except for the section up to the bike path has to be owned by the town of Niskayuna, but would, and similarly to what is happening at Rivers Ledge, would be maintained by the developers of Niskayuna Harbor. And the reason that has to be owned by the town of Niskayuna, the parks will not give a crossing agreement or crossing access to a private entity. It has to be a municipal entity. So it would be the similar situation to what's happening just to the west of this site. Other than that, we're here to see what your thoughts are, and hopefully we've made some positive steps forward in your eyes with regard to the overall layout and the density, trying to minimize it, but still really, and can't stress this enough, we are still trying to hit that attainable housing price point so that there are people who, you know, may be feeling like they need to either move out of Niskayuna because the prices are so high on real estate, you know, when they retire and they've got a home in Florida, but this might give them the opportunity to have a maintenance-free home here. Or again, those young professionals, they get out of college and they don't want to spend $3,000 a month in rent, just throwing money at rent, and actually want someplace they can own and they can invest in and have some resale. And, you know, given the location, given the proximity to downtown Schenectady, which has been coming along great over the past couple of decades with businesses and job opportunities, we think, you know, having some sort of, you know, attainable housing in this area would be a huge benefit to not only the town of Niskayuna, but the county of Schenectady.
Great. Thank you for the recap.
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot there. Number one, 25% reduction, the density, you know, feedback was received. A couple of questions on that. What does that do to the square footage of each unit? Are they basically the same size?
They're basically the same size. The townhome units we did not have in the previous concept. Those are a slightly different unit. And actually, we wanted to have that mixture of housing types. And the PUD mentions that mixtures of housing types. So in the previous iterations, we had, you know, all condominiums, but in different types of buildings. This now we have a townhome type unit, which is more of a home ownership with land ownership type of unit, and your condominium units as well. So that would be the only thing that really changed from a density square footage.
What about the foundation? Will there be a basement for the townhouses?
There will be a walkout basement, actually. The grade on that, in those areas of the townhomes actually grades down to the bike path very nicely. And blends itself. And if you remember on the last iteration, we actually had same units, which are right across the street here, which had the rear garages because of that grade being so substantial. But I think, you know, given this scenario, you can offer a full 3 floors of living space with these townhomes with, you know, 3 floors on the back and 2 on the front. In the garage on the first floor. And I think, you know, from a sellability standpoint, the one issue with townhomes is you always sell the 2 end units because they've got 3 walls that have windows. You know, you always struggle a little bit with those center units, but with having that additional floor and that additional square footage, you have that much more exterior wall space for windows and for rooms that require that natural light.
And do you know what, I don't know whether you have achieved that or not. Did you know what the price point would be, or a ballpark of what it might be?
Not at this point on the townhomes. We're still working on, you know, those price points.
Do they typically sell for more? I'm assuming.
I
right?
would
Additional
assume,
space.
Chuck, I'm gonna let you.
Yes, the townhomes would typically sell for more than the condos. But a lot of the pricing goes into the density and infrastructure. So
And they'll be 2-bedroom as well?
these would be 3 bedrooms.
They would be 3 bedroom.
Yep, with the opportunity of a finished basement or basement access storage.
So 3 bedrooms plus potential to develop the basement into an
Yes.
additional living space. And it looks from here, but forgive me, my ignorance, the driveways are facing Aqueduct. We're seeing the front of the structure as we drive down Aqueduct Road.
That's
Is that
correct.
Uh-huh.
Similar to a residential home.
Yep. Okay.
And I assume you've done test pits already. I'm curious, you'll have basements. I'm curious what the water table is so close to the river.
This particular location, which would be this would be the only location where we would have basements. The condominiums would be slab on grade. We don't anticipate any issues with water. It does pitch off good, and there is actually pretty adequate drainage along the bike path in the rear. And with regard to being the proximity to the river, We're about 20 feet in elevation above the river. But we have, there is some limited test pit data. I'm actually more concerned about rock elevation with the utility installations once we get down into the site. But being slab on grade, we shouldn't have any issues with that.
Thank you.
Laura, this is the first one I'm working on as a member of the board. So I know you talk about retirees and young professionals, but everyone does. And ultimately there are families that choose,
100%.
right, to live here. How would that work with school buses? How does that work at River Sledge now?
Yeah, they actually, because these are, although they're privately owned, they're very well maintained. The school buses go in and they have a singular bus stop inside these complexes where the parents, kind of like apartment complexes,
Mhm.
where the parents like walk to the.
There's one location where they do pick up.
Yeah, because my daughter's bus stop stopped at Rivers
Mhm.
Ledge last year, and they go in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I actually think the clubhouse area would be an excellent location because you do have a little bit of accessory parking there for people who want to drive their kids there on a very cold and snowy morning. And maybe, you know, if we do determine that, maybe we can even look at some sort of small shelter area to keep them out of the wind and the rain on those mornings as well. That, you know, so just a portico roof or something that would be attached to that clubhouse area.
And then a follow-up question to that.
Absolutely.
You talked about, I know we've talked about both the accessibility to the bike path as well as the public launch for the kayak. Is there anything else that would be publicly accessible?
Other than really that parking area in the rear, which would access that very western end of what would be the continuation of Aqueduct Park, there really wouldn't be anything other than that that would be publicly accessible. Obviously, nobody's going to stand out there and say, you don't live here, you can't drive in here. But that would be the areas that would be, you know.
Okay.
Well, the trails that you guys are proposing to make in the land that's dedicated to the town would all be public.
That's correct. All of that portion of the land dedicated to the town would be, yeah, absolutely.
And we had talked about, like, right now you showed the trail kind of going along the tops of these buildings. We had talked about moving that trail down.
We can look at that. The only thing that we need to make sure is that we can get the crossings and make sure we can get that. You're referring to moving it into the parkland itself, Laura?
Right, because then you could have a nice loop like the public
Right.
walk like we have at River Sledge.
Yep, we can definitely look at that. Right now, the trail is actually following the towpath of the canal, right along the top ridge of the canal. But we can move that to the other side depending on you know, vegetation, wetlands, and gradient.
But like when it's up close to the buildings like this, the public's probably not going to walk. Like
Right.
it would have to be set away. Otherwise, they're going to feel like they're walking along somebody's front yard.
I actually think that trail may always remain, but we may just add an additional trail within the park itself, only because it gives the residents of those units some connectivity without having to walk in the roads. But we can talk about that and what would be the best way to design that layout.
Can you give us some detail across the former barge canal? Like, is that a divot?
That is a depression. It actually is the canal itself. So you're going to have to probably bench in. Going down, actually, the location where we go down, the grade, it actually is not that deep and the grades aren't that steep. It'll actually be coming up on the other side. We're going to have to work with the grades a little bit to get that path benched into that slope and then, you know, out through to the river. And again, you can see the grades then pitch down pretty steep towards the river. So I just we'll have to take a good look at that area and detail that out, how we're going to, you know, make those grades work for someone who, you know, is carrying a kayak. Obviously, we probably can't make a handicap accessible access through there because of the grades. But we can certainly make a hull path for the for a kayak through there. Again, that area of the barge canal is actually, I encourage any of you, I'm sure, to walk it. It actually is very pretty. It's very well defined in there, and I think it becomes an asset to the site as well as having a public park adjacent to it. I think it become.
Question on, how do you envision the wayfinding? I know the second egress has been referred to as emergency,
Correct.
but if a car were to go to the east toward those 2 8 units, there'd be nothing stopping them or advising them not to continue straight to exit, right?
There'd be a gate there.
Okay.
At
So just
that-
emergency.
It's emergency only.
Single egress.
Yeah, the second egress is emergency only, which does meet the fire code.
So there'd be some back. This is, I try to take an interior loop.
If you look, I actually widened out that terminal driveway towards that last 8 unit for that turnaround ability. And we can, we can add some signage there, making sure that people are aware that that is a legitimate turnaround. Yeah. Yep.
I just wanted to actually take a step back to pricing of the units. I know you don't
Yeah.
have a definitive price, but I know in our previous conversations, it was talked about that the density was to kind of offset that price and keep it accessible for young families
Yes.
and retirees. And although I want to say, first of all, I love the way the reduction in density, I think this fits more along with what people expect in Niskayuna. I do want to kind of understand, I think, the thought process behind obtaining those prices. I'm not sure if the townhomes are going to offset the price, or how are you going to, what is your plan to maintain that?
I'm
price
actually
point?
going to defer to Chuck on this. He's done all the,
Yeah, so I think a lot of it comes down to level of fit and finish in the buildings later on,
Mhm.
right? But the main item that we were trying to accomplish here is, yes, the townhomes helped offset that density reduction with the sales up front. But overall, we're trying to keep this infrastructure as, as minimal as possible on a per door basis. So.
The pond would have some sort of fence around it by nature of it being a pond. What would that look like?
I actually, and I know it may require a discussion with the building department. Being that it is a natural pond, the same as the pond that's in Blackneck Park,
It doesn't need a fence.
it doesn't
Yeah,
need a
it
fence
doesn't.
because it has, as long as it has a flat area around it, I believe, you can utilize it. So, I mean, the pond actually, I'm thinking of the pond to be, again, very similar to what's in Blackneck Park. It's actually a little bit larger than the pond that's in Blackneck Park. I don't know if there's fish in it. I know there's aquatic life in it. You can see it. I think it actually adds a nice amenity to the site. And the more natural we can leave it, the better off we'll be.
Right.
If it's used for stormwater and it has an outlet structure with like suction, then it needs.
Oh, I see.
That makes sense.
But you're not proposing to use it for stormwater.
No, not at this time.
I appreciate the changes. I regard them all as improvements. My biggest concern remains, and that's the traffic. I don't know at what point we would ask for a traffic study.
I think we could ask for a traffic study now. Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Get a traffic engineer on board to start looking at the numbers. And I know there've been a lot of studies along Aqueduct Road, especially post traffic circle, to check the post construction, how that's gone. So there's a lot of data out there, and we can certainly take a look at how that's any potential impacts on that.
And could we ask the police department for relevant accident data?
Okay.
But this looks much more Niskayuna.
I appreciate it.
Can I just ask, those driveways that are onto Aqueduct, are they straight or are they side loading?
They're straight. They're actually not onto Aqueduct. We're actually building a road, a parallel road with Aqueduct. So yeah, I would not be putting any driveways, that number of driveways with a connection onto Aqueduct. We have to have that parallel road.
So I think the improvements are good. You know, the density is definitely moving in the right direction. A couple observations I had. One is, you know, the connectivity just on the inside between townhomes to townhomes, these little pockets where the road goes around. I know you've got a path that's justified towards the riverside. Then there's one obviously going to pick up the bike path, but some of the internal sidewalks could, I mean, it looks like some are demarcated. And then maybe there's some cross paths that cut through the inside of like the 8 units. Is that correct?
Yes, we had, what I had proposed, as you can see around that inner loop there, a sidewalk right along the edge of pavement. With connectivity to the sidewalk that runs along the south side of those 2 8 units, with ultimate connectivity to the clubhouse, which will connect to the walking paths that go along the pond and further into the site. And then internal in that courtyard area, I'm thinking where we have those 3 8 units buildings, having, nice courtyard area in the center of those, which can be open space for, any of the residents to enjoy. I'm not sure whether we would end up with a straight sidewalk or something with a little more curvature in there with benches and things like that. But that was my initial vision with that particular location.
Okay. Yeah. And then the other thing is just, the collection of where do you bank parking that you're going to need. And, in some areas it makes complete sense, like near the clubhouse and by the dog park, the other little area across from the pond, all seem to work out well. But then you've got, in the center, you've got a couple that are justified to the 1 8 unit. And that seems to be flanked by parking just on if you zoom into the one.
Oh, right. The 8 unit
closest
up
to
on
the
that
river,
end.
Yeah.
The
one in the center.
center,
you've got
right,
the center. Yeah, that one right there.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, he gets all the parking around him. So I'm just wondering if that, if you take account, you've got the one parking area all the way off to the, like the west side above the 4 units facing the river. You've got some perpendicular parking down near where the, closer to Aqueduct Road. With your experience, or maybe with Mr. Profundi's experience, what is really the needed number of parking spaces interspersed throughout one of these developments? Is the magic number somewhere around 100? Is it 50? If there's a way to minimize that so that it's not just thrown in because it looks like, you really think you need it.
Yeah.
I don't know what, maybe you can help.
Yeah,
out
so
with
it always comes down to like guess, right? And
Calculation
I think we
party.
have with these types of designs with like the 4 units and 8 units, it's big house development. So most people are putting a car in their garage or parking outside their garage. It's more the overflow, a guess. And from an enforcement action with like the HOA or property management, it's better to have them in like isolated locations than spread out throughout the site. That way you can police it and it's easy to sign it. So I think, to your point, I think a lot of it with Brett's latest revision is more enforceable from the comments that we got from the board last time. And it designates specific areas that hopefully it can be written within bylaws and things like that, where it makes more sense overall.
So would you eliminate on-street parking within the facility?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I have several condominium facilities and that we've done over the years. In Rotterdam, actually, I've got 3 of them that Pele Mental Builders has built. And, the number that we have shown there is about typical for what they like to see for the number of spaces. They have 124 units going in now. And we have just about the same, maybe a little bit more parking, off-street parking, accessory parking than with that site. So.
And this would also restrict fencing inside the quarter off unit from unit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other? Oh, go
I
ahead.
just have one. So like looking forward at process, kind of asked Laura this too, is so this is overall sketch submission, we talk about traffic as another requested engineering study. Are we looking towards moving into more of a conceptual design effort? Like I just wanted to kind of get that feeling from the board. The board feels satisfied from this sketch effort. If we could move forward on more of these conceptual design items, it kind of goes to the conversation around the parks crossing and the permitting of that goes hand in hand with our national grid process for the access easement for fire. Feel like we're at a good point right now to be able to kind of parallel track those adjacent efforts, make sure everything's cohesively designed.
Yeah, I think at least the initial feedback from tonight is good. The only other question I had, if you could zoom in on the bottom right-hand portion of it. So you've got the 4 townhomes and then you've got there's a single family home that's there that's existing, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then there's that sliver lot. It says fast food.
Oh, yeah, no, that's got to get taken off. At one
Okay,
point,
so
we
we're-
had a fast food
We're
restaurant.
not
there.
putting a
That must have been a layer that got thawed in the process.
Okay. But that
There's
just
a food
so,
truck there if you
yeah,
want.
but just so we're clear, I know we talked about this before. The crossing off of we'll put it the ingress point from Aqueduct Road, where you currently show it here between the 2 townhomes, is the most logical area for grade,
Yes.
site visibility. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure because you have that last little section of I guess it would be the site that's over there. That's part of your parcel, correct? The one
That
got
over to the right.
the
yes.
fast food lot.
Yes,
Okay.
the fast food lot that's, yes, that is part of the parcel as well.
Okay, and that's just going to remain on.
That's just going to remain undeveloped, yes.
Okay, all right. Signage for demarcation of that, is there any, like, how are you going to keep that from, is it just going to be green space, leave it as is?
It would just be green space. Yeah.
Okay.
Undisturbed. I don't see any other potential uses for it, including fast food.
And be a Dunkin' Donut.
That was the footprint I had on
No.
4 or 5 year revisions.
It's like the food truck platforms are all the big rage. Man.
I know.
You could have one right there. Okay, good. So I think that we've kind of addressed some of the major items. You know, we talked about the crossing for the bike path. There is an effort here to get connectivity to the river, which, you know, we're really going to highly encourage. Let's vet that out entirely. You know, show us why it can't work. You know, that's definitely an amenity that's there. A couple takeaways from other developments similar to this. The clubhouse obviously is a big selling point. So maybe seeing a little bit of development of what that may be or what that program ultimately is intended to be, I think will also be helpful for the board to see, because we've actually, the last couple of projects, they've taken quite a deep dive into what those amenities are.
Yes, and we are in the midst of scoping an architect, so we'll have renditions and other efforts to kind of visualize where our vision is coming forward here in the next board meetings.
Okay, all right. And, you know, I know it's early in the process, but we encourage diversity in design. Even though you have the same footprint, there's a lot of different aesthetic ways that you can change to make these things look interesting and intriguing, not just the same, you know, cookie cutter repetitive thing. That'll be a conversation piece that comes up time and time again. And then eventually getting the architectural review board involved in the process, which is a great asset that a lot of applicants have been able to tap into the last few years. So I guess to summarize all this, I think the board's in general consensus that we like the direction this is headed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now just checking with the leads here. I think we're good to go. So I think the next steps would be.
The only, I was going to say,
Okay, go ahead.
but I think we were kind of going in the direction of this comment, but are we restricting the price point target with this number? Meaning you're going to have to charge something that's two plus versus 1 something if we keep it at 150 something versus 200.
No, this won't impact it. Yeah, we're still keeping it obtainable. I mean, the biggest comparison is the difference from single family home lots and what's driven in at a price point with our districts, right? This design will still provide a substantial savings from a residential home sale.
Yeah. All right. I mean, if the average single family home is 300,000 now in this particular market, maybe a little less depending on where and its condition. These 2 bedrooms that are in the, you know, the greens and the yellows, one something?
I just feel uncomfortable pricing anything right now, especially because a lot of this development is going to be years from now in a single or in a for sale community. You know, the back parts of this project could be 6-7 years from now, right? So, you know, what I can say is we will be less than our district zoning home prices, right?
Yeah, less than a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom local comparative.
I also wanted to just piggyback on the chairman's comment about cookie cutter units. Excuse me. I don't know if you know the units over across from the Glen Eddy on Council Road. Those are horrible. I would never want to see something like that where you can go down a whole string of, you know, houses or condos and not even be able to know the difference between them. So I feel very strongly about diversity aesthetically.
And that's, I think, being alluded to, a changing in colors and things like that were done adjacent at the Rivers Ledge development, right?
Yes.
Trying to change not having the same color building next to one another. Okay.
This one is more complicated than Rivers Ledge in terms of clearing because Rivers Ledge was a junkyard. So you might want to start thinking about your limits of clearing and flagging your trees that have to come down. So that we can figure out that with a tree council site walk or something, because I think Rivers Ledge took down too many trees, more than they were supposed to, but I think they only ended up taking down something like 20 trees. I mean, this is going to be a lot of trees, so we got to start working on that too.
And I think that will come into play once we get into conceptual design. To do the tree survey this early, we don't have like a proposed topography yet. And a lot of the tree impacts come from grading.
Yeah.
So I think once we dive into conceptual design, would you agree, Brad?
Yeah, once we get the grading, situated and the stormwater management situated, we can, get a rough idea of what areas of clearing we need and what areas of clearing we may want for, recreational and aesthetic resources.
Well, trees add value.
I
Absolutely.
don't disagree with you at all.
They do play a good role in drainage.
I don't disagree with you at all.
And it does add to the aesthetic of looking more like a real residential neighborhood rather than a bunch of apartments that aren't so cohesive.
I would agree.
I just had an afterthought about the actual entrance on Aqueduct Road. Would there likely be a left turning lane and a right turning lane? I mean, in the morning, I can imagine there being some congestion there. So
We
what
can,
ideas?
again, once we engage with the traffic engineer, we'll let them make the determination on the traffic movements based upon the anticipated traffic patterns, and make that recommendation. I hate, as just the site engineer, to be making recommendations when I know that I'm going to be consulting with a traffic engineer, because I always get yelled at by the traffic engineer. Why did you do this? Because I thought it made sense. Well, it doesn't. So that I'm going to leave that to the experts, but that certainly is something we'll take a look at.
So the only comment there would be, and you're already thinking that way, just it's a single point.
Right.
So at those two dense, the busy hours of the day, I can imagine there might be some
Yes.
concern for backup.
Yep. We definitely can take a look at that and get their recommendations on what they think would
I
be the
was
best way.
envisioning like over the bike path. Like there would be the obstruction for bikes to even go by.
Really?
Well, I'm just
Okay.
saying, like, if I were to, I could be really wrong here, but if 8 cars were in queue and they couldn't, exit onto Aqueduct because of the traffic,
That's
maybe that 9th car would be on the bike path.
That's like a
200
40
yards.
car stack.
Okay, then
So
I'm way
yeah,
out.
that's a Chick-fil-A stack.
No, that's good. I don't know what you mean by Chick-fil-A stack.
Streaming
Have you been to their
Yeah,
drive-through
I
recently? Yeah, go to Clifton Park and try to drive through that parking lot these days.
Cleric and I have also been preparing like a list of like things to think about and lessons learned from Rivers Ledge. Like lighting has been a big issue at Rivers Ledge.
Okay.
So,
Across the river.
yes, the clearing, and then it gets a lot brighter, impact to neighbors. We'll get a list of things that you know, what we looked at River's Ledge and things that we know, off the top of my head. Also, there was complaints about the white siding, so
remember.
let's just not do white siding this. I mean, that's just easy stuff to do
Yeah.
at the beginning, yeah.
About the lighting of developments, especially complexes. The condominium developments tend to be a little more residential in nature. I know all the ones that I've done in the past, all the exterior lighting has been simple light posts at the driveways, similar to what you would see at any residential house. So it's much more minimal than what you get at the apartment complexes like River's Ledge. So, but we can certainly keep that in mind and make sure that that is attenuated. As far as across the river, the one thing we do have is we have a pretty good buffer between the buildings and what's on, the river, with that, parkland and the canal property, that will not be cleared. But we do, and the other thing across the river is, we're actually past that rounded point of where all the residences are in El Plaza. We're actually looking at it's the yacht club over there, if I'm not mistaken, directly across the river in the old seaplane base. So it's a little less of an impact on that side of the river. Certainly, especially out when we get out near Aqueduct Road, we don't want to impact the neighbors across the street, although there aren't a lot of neighbors directly opposite the site, but we certainly can take all of that into account.
Yeah, and headlights facing out. Oh,
No,
sorry.
sorry. My question was just, for those units in the middle, all of their backyards are like, they're all facing one another.
Correct.
Is that piece of land, is that going to be completely cleared, or is there going to be some part of it that's left as a buffer in between?
It's funny you bring that up, because I actually, when we were talking about the trees, thinking if there's any way that I can leave some mature trees in that area would be great. I don't know until I grade the site, and I don't know until I do the stormwater, but that is certainly something. And, after bringing that up about the trees, that I would love to try to keep some of the mature trees in that green space between the buildings and try to leave that rear buffer, somewhat maturely vegetated.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I think we're
Excellent.
we're good with the next revision that we see here. And
Sounds good.
keep moving on to the next one.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening. Look forward to being back soon.
Thank
you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, next up is 3406 Albany Street, a site plan application requiring a special use permit for the operation of a religious education facility at a single-family home. Current project lead. Welcome back, Mr. Hirschberg.
Thank you. It's good to be back again for a few times. We've been here before and we discussed it before, and I think we provided an awful lot of data. We had that site visit where we had a few members there and staff. We think the site develops quite well. I'm not aware, and I'm not really sure whether or not Laura has determined whether or not we need BZA action or whether or not need waivers. And I'd be like to hear whether or not that determination has been made yet, so we know where we're going right now.
Yeah, so we met with the attorneys a couple times. We couldn't actually really decide until we got this final site plan, which is really helpful. But the building, garage building that was built, it was built slightly closer to the lot lines than the original non-conforming structure. So for that reason, it does have to go to the zoning board. I actually don't think it has to go to the zoning board for the area, but it does have to go for the structure. A simple, relatively simple area variance. But your survey picked up that the footprint isn't the same. It's actually quite a bit closer to the the Gassner Ave front lot lines.
Okay, for that small difference, I guess we'll be going to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
That's one referral, and I don't know whether there are any other items that catch your eye that we might need.
Yeah, I think we decided that the town board, if it chooses to grant the special use permit, grants it with, can note, right? And David, you're at this meeting,
Mhm.
can note that there's different, that there's deficiencies. The planning board can point them out and the town board can say yes or no to them.
Right.
But the town board actually can't overrule on the distances to the lot lines.
Okay. And do we go from here? Are we gonna get, a letter of recommendation for you or referring us someplace so we can get going with the other bodies? I'm not tired of seeing all the folks, but we've been back like 6 times already. So again, we'd like to see some other people.
Yeah, and I think I can speak to that. So I think part of this, it's a very, very, very unique application. And one of the things that we did, and the planning department has taken quite a deep dive into this. So we'll just start with the site plan. So the structure that's there that was originally applied for as a garage is now being used for a different purpose. Okay, no garage doors. It's got a single door that goes in there.
Yep.
So we understand what the intended use is. I think from all of us looking at the site plan, I don't think that the building is egregious in its size or its location. It seems to fit in with the neighborhood that's there. A few things that are a bit problematic. The parking here starts to go into where do you balance a residential lot with the required parking that we have to have. So the one thing that we determined is that the concrete pad that's off Gassner on the back that's shared cannot be counted towards allocated parking spaces. So,
We didn't count it on
right,
our plan.
so that one was taken off the table right there. Then the other thing is not permitting parking on the street side in the front of the house, front of the, I guess would be the front line of the house too, would then be problematic for the 2 spaces that are pointing to right up at the top there on Albany Street. So if you can bring the parking in, stack parking can go on the existing driveway that's there. And then you've got some bank parking, which would be those concrete pavers, which again, then starts to take away from the actual lot itself. But like we talked about, those types of permeable pavers can be used. They kind of blend in. They're easily reversible. So I think that that's something definitely that we could weigh and consider in putting in there. But, one of the bigger takeaways that we had, and if you could bring up that zoning code comparison summary, this is kind of where our findings came from the last meeting. So we have a chart here that Mr. Robertson will bring up. So what we wanted to do is is figure out, but when we have these places of worship, what we have in our code, which is the lot size, the setbacks, and the parking spaces, those are kind of 3 of the key takeaways that we're trying to formulate this recommendation for. And
Sorry. Having a problem.
yeah, so starting with number 1. So our code reads that we've got a 2-acre site right now. This one currently comes in at 0.36 acres. Same thing. So anything in red basically shows the deficiency. Anything in green shows it complying or exceeding. And same thing with the width. The depth is very, very close. I think that that's definitely manageable from what we're looking at. Coverage of buildings with the structures. I think your updated plan brings you in at the 13%. So it's not over the 25%. And then this is where the main trigger came in with the setbacks. So, the front, the side, and the rear, those are the issues that we found when we got the updated site plan to take a look at what those are, which is now triggering the ZBA referral that we're going to have to make the recommendations on. So going back, I think with the information that you've provided us for the parking, we've come up here with that table here, which would require 6. And right now, I think that you're currently hitting 4, if we don't count the 2 out front.
Right, and 2 banked.
And 2 banked.
Yes. Well, 3 banked, right?
Well, the ones on the pavers would be considered banked.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. I would like to see the parking not on Albany Street in front, but maybe inside on the property. So it creates a little bit more of that residential feel. Plus, with the parking agreement that they have with Upstate Guns and Ammo, for the high times that you're going to be having services there on Sunday, the majority of people can park in that parking lot. Now, the other thing that is just another observation from the people that have gone there to see the site, there isn't a demarcated crossing between at Albany Street, anywhere along that road, and there's no shoulder, no sidewalk. So that's just one of the things that I don't know if the town has to get involved with that, but it was just I guess it would be an observation of concern that we saw from not only us walking around, just a takeaway from one of the site visits.
But the lack of pedestrian accommodation on Albany Street is not something that my client brought upon.
Right.
That's because primarily most of the time, they won't even have people crossing Albany Street. People can park in the driveway. The number of cars that are really there on a regular basis, 2 or 3 is a good number to allow for, because they're people that use the services of the religious organization primarily don't even have cars. A lot of them don't even drive. So again, based on existing occupation for a religious institution, which is important here, it is a religious institution. We think that you're sort of applying it sort of like another commercial application. This is really not that. It's a religious institution which is occupying a meditation room and a private home. That's what they're using. So I'm reluctant to offer any solution for the pedestrian accommodations along Albany Street at my client's expense. I don't think, first of all, they barely can afford what they're doing now, and to put on them improving some pedestrian accommodations on Albany Street would be just out of the question. It would be an unfair obligation on a religious institution, I believe.
I'm not saying that has to be a requisite of this. I'm just stating that it was a concern during the walkthrough that we had, that now you're entering an agreement that takes you across a busy street that doesn't have a demarcated pedestrian access. So I'll open it up to discussion for the board.
I'm Nain, one of the representatives for these organizations, and I have couples of questions regarding with the applications right now situations. When I first met with Laura, and we asked for the zoning and this kind of application, we need to apply for that? Laura told us, you don't need to, you don't have to. And right now it's switch to the zoning things, and I don't understand that. My background is not totally different from that thing. So maybe because of my knowledge, I don't understand well for this purpose. And also we've every steps we work on for this the meditation room, we get a permission from the town hall, and every steps is in line with the applications and the regulations of the town hall for the town hall. And why right now it's the garage is modified as the meditation room is not
I'll explain. It does happen sometimes. So the old garage that was there that fell down, it had a survey that was paid for you guys, and Hirschberg did that survey, and it showed the corners of the pre-existing non-conforming garage to be more than 20 feet from both the front and side yard lot line. So these two measurements, right? I was just seeing if in the packet we had the old one, but we don't. So this is measured 17.6 and this is measured 16.9. The building permit that was issued by our department was issued for more than 20 on both of those sides. When it got built, I mean, it does happen sometimes. The zoning board has seen it. It wasn't put back again in the exact footprint. So when it got built closer to those lot lines. And the only reason we know that is because you're here now for the site plan. But when you look at the old plan that was labeled forums area, the forums area was the original garage. that is the footprint that you are allowed to start from. So you could start from 20 feet on both of those lot lines and then go forward to Albany Street. Unfortunately, when it was built, it got built closer to Gasner. No one, planning board or town board, can actually say that that's okay. The only people that can say that that's okay is zoning board. And actually, it's related to the building permit more than it's related to the site plan. That's just a piece of information that came up when we were finalizing whether or not it would need to go to the zoning board because we were checking all the measurements.
Yeah, it's a, not sure if, I have another follow-up question. If zoning board is not voted for this applications, how do we do? How do I, please suggest us? Because we invest a lot of money in for this meditation room, and also this is the religious purpose only for the religious purpose, plus for the parking purpose. So here's some of the board members already visited on-site visits, and you've already seen how much parking spot we can use and how do we manage. And that's why we ask all of you, come visit one Sunday. Just come visit. And you can see, well,
I actually drove by this Sunday and I
I-
can completely verify that there were 4 cars there. That's it. Yes, I
Yeah.
saw.
I'd like to address the question that you raised regarding the fact that the property or the building wasn't built within the 20 feet setbacks. So I'm not counsel to the zoning board of appeals, but I have been in the past and I've also been on the zoning board of appeals. So for an area variance, which is what you need, one of the things that the board is entitled to look at is how expensive the fix is. So that's one of the things that you can set forth in your application for the variance is it's a very expensive problem to fix at this point, right? Like you can't just move the building over 3 feet in one direction and 2 feet in the other kind of thing. So that's part of your application. You would also argue that that distance may not be noticeable to the general public. Like it's not egregious in the sense that it's like, perhaps that it wasn't noticed prior to this. So without sort of commenting on the likelihood of you getting the variance, you have good arguments. But this board, as Laura said, can't waive that requirement for you in this case, nor can the town board. The only quasi judicial board at the town that's authorized to deal with that is the zoning board of appeals.
so that's my follow-up questions. What if the zoning board is not agree with that? And how can we manage our religious institutions like, or just an organization, but it is also the religious institution, one of the religious institution for the immigrant people?
Yeah, I think those are two different issues. So the merit of your religious claim and the fact that it serves a population can be part of your presentation to the board, but that's not in and of itself like that zoning enactment or that requirement for a front and side yard setback wasn't directed at your use. It's just a general use that we have for this zone or requirements that we have for this zone. So when the variances aren't granted, then the town is then put in a situation for what enforcement we decide to do on our side. And, you know, sometimes people are able to comply. In this case, I agree, it would be hard for you to comply.
Yep. You're saying now we can't park up front. That means we move the asphalt up front and just have the driveway? Would that be the solution for eliminating the parking in front of the building?
So I think what it is it's discouraged to have parking in front of the front lot line of a house, correct? The residential area.
Is it a code requirement that we not have parking in the front?
Yeah, so the code requirement is that you can't park in the front yard of any single family home.
Right.
But you can park in the driveway.
This is really, is the front yard the area in front of the building or the front yard being the line of the building restriction?
Well, technically you have two front yards. Gasner is a front yard as well.
That's true.
Okay.
There is no code violation to cars being parked here. It was a single
Yeah.
family driveway
Right.
and it's perfectly acceptable to
Mhm.
have the cars parked here. The one that is not paved,
Right.
the
right.
grass one that you're not showing on your drawing, but cars do park there sometimes. That's the one that you would either kind of, I guess, have to decide if you're going to make it like an actual parking spot or to leave it just grass.
But bringing the parking in past the gate towards the on the driveway side and then using those pavers and bank parking, I think is a reasonable request that this board can work with if the zoning board of appeals grants the setbacks. At least that's where I'm at with this application.
So if I can summarize, I was not at the last meeting, but it seemed like after the site meetings, the board is amenable to considering the recommendation of the town board. It seems like we've reached a point where we can work through things. I think what the site is very unique, and one of the really important things is that it's a quiet use and that we would probably limit the seats, but we are finding ways to accommodate the parking. So, I mean, you're not hearing a stop. You're hearing a, I think we can, do a recommendation, then the town board has to look at it. We do also need to call for a public hearing. And then,
You have to have a public hearing before you make your recommendation to the town board.
yeah, we do. And ours is mailed to the adjacent neighbors. The town board's is not mailed. It's just in the paper. So ours is the one that typically brings more people because it's mailed.
Yeah. So you have to have a public hearing first before you make a recommendation to the town board regarding the special use permit, and also before you make a recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding the variance. Both of those be coming from
It's a single public hearing.
Yeah, we don't have to call for a public hearing for the zoning board. The zoning board has its own public hearing on the area variances specifically.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this group doesn't make any recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals?
We'll make a recommendation.
We will in this case. If it was just a garage that was built too close to the lot line after the building permit, we would not. But because it's being used in this purpose, I think it makes sense for us to do a recommendation.
So we need some work done here to get to the point that we're in front of the town board.
ZBA first.
Yeah.
Correct. So Laura, I'm thinking that on this, maybe like what Clark has done in the past, we might need to write out the steps in the timeline.
Mhm. Yeah, we can do that. I
Yeah.
also think it's just my opinion. It may be okay to call for the public hearing now. It may be useful actually for you guys to have the public hearing before it goes to the zoning board so the issues aren't confused. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so our next meeting is September 29th. And that's the longer duration between our monthly meeting, our 2 monthly meetings. So as Ms. Robertson recommended, I would say that we call for the public hearing to be held at the September 29th meeting. We can get some feedback. In that interim time, planning department can put together a timeline of steps now that we know what's going on with the ZBA. Show what those meetings are and construct a timeline for you so that you can understand what the commitment's going to be.
Okay,
Do you think at that 29th meeting, we'd be in a position to make our recommendations to the ZBA?
Yeah, I think after the public meeting, we would, if we don't get any significant, so typically how it works is if there isn't significant feedback from, things brought up at the public hearing, we then go through a discussion. If the site plan is very similar or exactly the same as what we're looking at, we have the familiarity with this. We've looked at this several times. We know the direction that you want to go in, then that will lay the groundwork for us to make those recommendations to the ZBA. They take it, then they have their meeting. They may decide on it then. They may table it. They may review it a couple times. Once we get their decision, it comes back to us, and then we can formulate what our recommendation is for the special use permit to the town board.
so we got to get the zoning out of the way first, public hearing.
Public hearing first.
Here, public hearing get that recommendation back to you, and then you folks might be in a position to make a recommendation to the town board.
Correct.
We got some time.
Okay.
I'm getting involved with this project. I've been to more meetings than I've been. I think I'm more meetings than I've been when I got Mohawk Harbor
Yeah.
approved in the city of Schenectady.
Yeah, I think this is a very unique project.
Yeah.
And it's a small site. It's a restricted site. It's in a residential neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of things. It's just, we just don't have a lot that we can compare this to.
Okay.
And listen, the planning department has done a lot of legwork on this. I've had several meetings with them to review the information. Each time we take another deeper dive into it, this is some of the information that we're finding. So, we don't think this is a stop. And I think if it was, in fairness to the applicant and yourself, we would let you know that if we really felt strongly that this wasn't going forward. But we're just finding this information. We just have to go through those proper steps.
Really has to go forward. That meditation room is a big investment in them. They want to continue to use it. In order to do that, we got to not only get your action first in your public hearing, you have to have the Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing, have to have them go approve it, and then hopefully convince the town board to grant us a special use permit. So
So we understand it is also something that we have to be careful with precedents and make sure that we're doing it right and make sure that it is unique, or we're not just going to allow these anywhere depending on, and we have to think of the future. We think that these applicants are absolutely amazing, but a different, kind of, these guys are very quiet and it's beautiful. But once it has a special use permit, we have to make sure that that neighborhood is protected in the future for kind of anything that goes
Well,
to use that space.
I made applications for zoning variances before, and I think this one has a lot of justification.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing for success with this.
And I very much enjoy working with all of the members of your religion. They're beautiful, beautiful, wonderful people. I love them. It did get built not entirely according to what was supposed to happen. So, I mean, it's a long process. It's hard. Can work with you. Sometimes it's a learning lesson too.
Okay.
Just if it is not possible, how can we proceed our religious, we cannot continue. And we want to bring all those the resources to other countries, to the America. See, everyone has a religion. So why don't we have the one thing? So if I work for New York State Department of Health, and I'm also work for the AAPI leadership for the New York State. So if you need anything, I can bring some documents from governor and also our AAPI commissioners. This is our first time trying to get these religious institutions in here around urban.
Yep. Well, the
Thank
public
you.
hearings, if you want people to public hearings, they come out at the public hearings.
Correct.
Yep, so those are good opportunities for anyone to come in and any letters to be sent into the public hearings here and for the ZBA. And also, what you're saying makes a very strong set of arguments relative to this area variance that we're going to seek from the ZBA. So I think, make those points. Mr. Hirschberg's got experience with that. And well, let's take it one step at a time. Let's see what the ZBA says. And, if the ZBA does grant the variance, then from what this board conveyed, what Mr. Diapino as the leader and the chairman conveyed, what Laura conveyed, I think we have a workable step forward.
Just tell your story again. You've done a good job every time
Yeah.
you've come explaining the circumstances and who you are serving and what you are striving to do. So I know you have to do it again, but I would just encourage you to do it the same way and explain a lot of the things that you explained to us today.
Thank you.
So are we gonna have a public hearing on the 29th?
So public hearing on the 29th, and let us be in a position to maybe make a recommendation to the ZBA. And would they be able to get on the 29th, the October ZBA meeting?
But we'll formalize that time.
Yeah.
Planning department. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Dan, we just wanted to add one last thing. We agree, this has been a tremendous experience and a great work. There's so many people that are behind this project a lot. We're trying to keep our eye out on every potential hurdle and making sure everything is done safely. And we have one eye on something also that comes after the planning board, and that's the building department. So we're also trying to keep our eye on the building department requirements. This structure was permitted as a garage, and now the use is changing to a place of where people will be public assembly. So Laura and I have been talking with the building inspectors a little bit too, because that can bring in a whole host of other insulation requirements, energy codes. So we just wanted to let you know, be aware of that. There's another step beyond the planning board too.
Yeah, one thing I consider, if this didn't have wood walls on it, if it was a temporary tent or a permanent tent out there where people congregate and do their meditation at, a lot of those wouldn't require, we wouldn't have bathrooms, we wouldn't have insulation requirements, we wouldn't have the heating requirements and that sort of stuff. So I think this should be allowed some leeway in the interpretation of the building code, which is given to the building department to interpret. I know it's out of your hands, but again, I'd like to make our case to them.
Sure, absolutely. We just wanted to use that as an example of we're actually looking forward, looking ahead to help the process.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up on discussion items, 1745 Balltown Road. This is Trustco Bank, an application for site plan modifications. Good evening.
Mike Roth, Strock Roth, Gilmore Architects. How are you? This project started out with, the whole purpose for this project is really they're replacing the ATM machine. And initially, in order to make this work, we were going to have to move the columns, raise the roof, and do a whole bunch of different work. Because they access the ATM machines from the sides, the doors would hit the columns and it just wasn't going to work. They have found an ATM machine that will fit between the columns now. So we're in good shape there. The only issue that we're really here for is that we're going to add 7 inches to the curb, to the island, is basically what we're asking for in width. By doing that, we're gonna remove a bit of the, and if you see on the drawing that we have, you can see where we've cut back the little sidewalk that's there. That sidewalk's really not even necessary, except it keeps cars from hitting the building. And we'll still leave the curb and it'll still be fine there. We're just giving it a little extra width so the car can make the turn around the ATM. It's tight as it is now. When you take away 7 inches, it's a little tighter. So that's why we're doing that. We've made it come back out because if you look down in the far corner, there is a night depository that's there. Doesn't get used a lot, but it does get used. So we wanted to make sure that there was at least enough for somebody to stand on the sidewalk there. That's basically what we're talking about. Any questions?
Sure. Okay. So I think all of us are really familiar with this entrance parking lot here. So just so that everyone's clear. So if you're coming off of Knott Street, entering the parking lot, you're coming in and you have to come in to the right-hand side of the ATM, correct? Okay,
That's
perfect.
correct.
Okay. So there's a parking spot right here. So you're coming in, you're going through the ATM. The transaction window is basically just a visual window, correct?
Just the visual window. They don't know the drive-through.
Okay. So if the car is coming through, it's the driver's side. They're coming towards us in the photograph.
Correct.
It's definitely a very tight squeeze in there.
I could take more of that sidewalk out and just put a couple bollards there to make that less tight.
So the only issue with the bollards is that at least my opinion, is that when you go to snow removal, that becomes problematic.
know.
And right then and there, you're piling snow up against the building. You've got two bollards there. You know how it is. Some people get into an ATM. I know I have a larger vehicle. I can't reach the ATM, so I have to actually park and get out and use the ATM. So I queue up and then go through or park in the parking lot, walk over and stand in line with the traffic. I think that that's something that should be considered as far as where the, what that line is. But the bollards that are proposed on that plan, is that simply just to keep things away from the sidewalk? Is that the
Just
only,
keep away from the building.
just away from the building? Okay.
Goes up on the curb.
I mean, as tight as that is, and you're going to be widening the island. I mean, a curb is a pretty good thing when you're pulling up through a
No
building.
problem Not putting the bollards in.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to take up about 10 inches off of the curb line. I don't know if the board feels, strongly about that, but it's tight.
It's always been tight.
Yeah.
But cars keep getting bigger, so I think whatever we can do, to create the space is what we should do. Or propose.
And where's the night transaction
It's
box? Oh, that, okay, all right, gotcha.
Has that ever been a drive-through?
no, to the best of my knowledge.
It's interesting that the ATM wasn't just built right into the wall. You could just drive up like some of the other credit.
Well, I think it had to do with this way you have backup. If you put it against the wall, then they're backing up in the parking lot.
See, that entrance point as you come in off of Knott Street is tough, because if you come in and another car is going the wrong direction, it's a pinch point. So it's just and most of the cars that come in, I mean, and most of the cars that come in are going to try to take, right to go back to the intersection, which is right there. And then the co-op's parking lot entrance is right on the other side of that as well, too. Only, demarcated by
When
the
they go
rest
to
of
that lot,
Right.
walk the road.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a pinch.
It's 14 feet between the wall and the center of the column.
If that's what it says, that's what they measured.
But there's a shape to the curve, and that's what you're saying.
By moving that sidewalk in, you do get a little more room to make the turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to maintain the ability for somebody to exit their vehicle and pick up what they dropped or whatever. And when you start narrowing the sidewalk too much, I worry that's not going to be feasible.
Well, now in the sidewalk, nobody's not be, very few people, no one uses that sidewalk, basically. There's a door in the rear of the building that's an exit door. But nobody goes out and walks along the side of the building underneath the canopy. Generally speaking, I don't say no.
Yeah, because I think I've seen an exception or two.
We're saying it's 9 feet curb to curb now. And we're gonna back 10 inches. Ten feet, cars are usually, well, a parking space is 8.5 inches, or feet wide.
It's a close one.
Varies by town.
Yes.
Laura, I think it was in the agenda statement, but this is another project that we bounced off a building inspector. And I know there is a code requirement in our zoning code that I believe a sidewalk has to be at least 4 feet wide. So, and I'm not sure if it said that that's, if the planning board has the ability to waive that or not. That's something we could firm up, but that's one of the things that we saw at this that may be a bit of a technicality, but there is a requirement that sidewalks are to be 4 feet wide. then there was some question about whether that needed to be wider for handicap accessibility or not, but that's something the building inspector was kind of looking into a little on that.
In which case, you're almost better, to Dave's point, to kind of take that sidewalk out. and
Yeah, I
put
think-
curb. Yeah.
That's
what
I would say.
I think the path here is sidewalk removal. The question is what's going to be done instead.
I'm sorry.
I think the path here might be sidewalk removal, but the question becomes what will be done instead if there's no sidewalk.
I have, one of the thoughts was just taking the sidewalk out.
Mhm.
It's coming out the back door, there's an exit door, it's fine, but plenty of open space to get to. And to be honest with you, it will save money.
Mhm.
Not that the bank needs to save
Yeah.
money, but they don't have to rebuild the sidewalk upstairs.
The canopy is being removed and replaced?
No, canopy stays exactly.
Oh, it's
the
not,
way it
okay.
is.
Okay, so- I mean, one of the drawings did say the canopy was getting removed, right? But
It says, yeah, canopy.
new
removed.
canopy.
So that stays the same. Lighting? Is it?
Everything.
Everything stays the same. Okay, so this is just ground level site.
So,
And again, the 7 inches are needed for the new ATM machine.
yes.
It requires that increase in width.
If you're gonna remove the sidewalk, though, you kind of actually have to remove it on the whole side of the building.
Right,
So that
yep.
it doesn't like have 4 panels that comply and then nothing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
on that side.
I don't think
Good.
it's even a problem. Even the night depository, because we can stand on the pavement at that point.
What are you gonna say, Lindsay?
I was thinking if some of the panels were removed and then it was the handicap access, the little, it's not even a ramp, but the adjustment to make it wheelchair friendly so that people, if they needed to and wanted to go, would be able to access the sidewalk that way.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. If you were gonna leave existing panels, they would have to have essentially a curb cut with warning bumps down to the asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Work well.
Yeah.
the sidewalk on the front of the building remains
Yes.
and it goes directly into the 2 crosswalks
That's correct.
with the proper curb cut. So,
As far as I know it.
right?
Mhm.
We're gonna have to
So
be,
it's a pretty clean
yeah, it's a
removal, is what
clean,
you're saying. I get
yeah.
it.
My geometry site actually loves that idea.
I mean, you said it, but let's reinforce it, right? How much usage does that sidewalk on the night deposit and teller window side of the building get today?
I can't. I don't think it gets. much.
I can't think we get much either.
I also think it may be fairly unusual to have a sidewalk inside of a drive-through.
Yeah.
I
I'm
agree.
trying to think of another site
That's
plan
right.
where we have
Well,
that.
it's probably there for-
Me.
Hmm.
Was it added though to have that with a window? You're too far away from the teller window. Oh, that's just to protect.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of unusual. Like, I mean, I go through a number of drive-throughs and I can't think of one that has a sidewalk
sidewalk,
inside of it.
I mean,
CVS pharmacy one does not.
My guess would be
Sure.
that this building was renovated to get a drive-through for the bank. That's why, that's why it's there.
Yeah.
That would be my,
At this point,
In other words, the
That roof
canopy
was
was added.
added.
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear, because I'm not right now. If the sidewalk comes out and they have to kick out, what, 7 more inches for the ATM? Is that it? What, in the end, what is that? What is that distance going to be, the measurement? How wide is that going to be?
The drive lane?
After the
Adding
sidewalk
some
goes
and
out,
subtracting.
yeah.
I don't think.
Is there a dimension on there?
The drive lane?
So the sidewalk is showing is about 3 foot 7 inches, right? And it's, yeah.
10 foot 7 inches from
Uh-huh.
the building to the curb of the island.
actually it would be 12.7.
Yeah, it's 12.
It would be 12 foot 7.
12 foot 7, yeah.
Correct.
If we took the
Sidewalk
sidewalk
is a-
completely out, 12 foot 7.
Subtract.
You got 9 foot plus 3 foot 7.
Yep.
No.
No, the
That's
the
with
9
the
foot already
7.
accounts for the increase by 7, right?
Correct.
Right-hand side drawing, right, sir?
That's
The
correct.
9 foot,
Yeah.
that drawing we're looking
That
at,
includes the 7 inches.
it includes 7 inches. So that's reasonable.
I would love to leave the sidewalk. I'm with you.
You
Or
can
just
still
leave
have
it
the
in
raised curve to protect the building.
So I think that there might be a planning, a building department check here, right? That we need to make sure.
Well, the building department is saying that if you take the sidewalk out, it may need to have to go back in at 4 feet, not because of code.
Right.
That's something that Clark's looking into.
No, that
The-
we were gonna go put a sidewalk back in.
Right,
But-
it, once you take it out,
Right.
if you're putting it back in, the planning board may not be able to approve
Yeah.
the
You need a variance then.
building code variant,
Building
not a
code.
ZBA. State, that's a state.
Just to verify that we took the sidewalk out and did not replace it with anything.
Then it would not. Right,
That's
Could they replace it with a curb?
much longer, yes.
Would they replace it with a curb?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You could, you could have a foot of curb concrete.
Yes. I mean, at that point, it's more aesthetic in terms of,
My preference would be to take it right out. Totally
And just
leave-
have
leave the-
asphalt come up
leave
to
the
the,
piece at the door, leave a piece at the door and the door, and then leave it at that, and just pave right up to the building.
So, so maybe I think the course of action, because this drawing reflects some new columns, a canopy, we know the size of the ATM, would be maybe to check with the bank to make sure there is a real specific reason that they have to have a sidewalk right there. And if they find that it can be removed, then I think that would make sense, whether you want to keep maybe a rate, we'll call it like a raised concrete curb or something there, just to keep tires for people from getting a little too close to the building.
Yep.
I think that could be something that you did, or if you wanted to use a section of bollards at the front and back that align with the island, something like that may make sense. You've got some bollards that you're showing here too. Maybe just checking with the bank and cleaning that up. Anything that can make that a decent navigatable width, because when you come out of that ATM, you're right in the parking lot, and there's parking right across from there. So it's a lot of
I was just
back and
like
back
I
out.
said,
Right, but let's just ask a question. The door in the rear, as shown in this drawing, right, the upper part, does that require a sidewalk in front of it? Or it can just be onto blacktop?
this door?
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on the grades, I think. I mean, it has to be accessible.
I would leave that.
You would leave that, like to Leslie's point, then you just make the dips down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, but
All right, so you got to be careful with
Yeah,
with the egress here. So if you're modifying that back sidewalk, it's got to come out. So right now, if you're showing that door correctly, it's swinging inward, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, in order to put a detectable warning surface on one or both of the ends of that, I think you have to come out to a stoop area if that's raised. I don't know if that's a grade or not.
No.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. You kind of have to walk.
we need to walk and look at it.
yeah.
We need to have a revised drawing presented. I think.
Yeah. So if that's at grade, then that's not necessarily a problem. You could leave a stoop there just to demarcate it, or, you're going to be doing some asphalt repairs anyways, regardless of what, which direction you go.
Have to see where it is.
Yeah. And then I think that would be helpful.
Wouldn't we all surprised we could raise the grade?
Yeah.
So.
So speaking of asphalt repairs, who owns the asphalt, and is there a landlord?
There's,
So we might want to, it looks like it needs
Help.
help. Right?
Oh, it looks nice on Google. Might be old though.
That's the back corner.
Yeah, that's,
Can't quite get there.
yeah. There it is. I mean, that's just something we should make note of with the, yeah.
Okay.
So I am a little bit concerned about it, keeping some sort of egress, raised sidewalk, whatever it is at that rear entrance. We got to make it.
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue. Biggest concern I have is that the bank's scheduled over Columbus Day weekend to put this ATM, because that's when they have an extra day to do it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get the drawing. I can change the drawing accordingly and get it to Laura and to hopefully not have to come back.
No, we're not going to tell you now.
Tentative reso. for
Yeah,
the
so we
20
could go with the tentative resolution on the 29th, I think, with some of those upgrades. One of the things that will help this get moved along is if we could get a project lead on that, do a site visit so we could get some of these takeaways so they can report back to the board. And then that would be helpful. So just to recap, the canopy stays, no additional lighting. One of the other things that we do touch on some of these projects is accent lighting, security lighting. Is there any upgrades to that at all as part of this application? Okay. And then wayfinding signage. Currently, I think there's a do not enter sign on the one end. And then is there any other wayfinding signage or anything else that the bank wanted to do in order to do this? It's just strictly, okay.
I'm happy to be.
Okay.
No problem.
To verify that they did give me a date, but I don't remember whether it was Columbus Day weekend or before they wanted to put this ATM. I have to check it.
Yeah, it's a tight timeline, but I think that if we can get some of that information in. So the deadline for submissions is 10 days prior.
19th, right?
So it would be the 19th.
Better if it's the 17th because we do it out the Wednesdays now, but we do the,
Is it the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we do the draft packet on Wednesdays now. Yeah.
Just to double check, because I'm getting confused because both the State Street project, they're going to be closing down over
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day.
Oh, okay.
So I may have misspoken on that. I want to just double check that if you don't.
Okay.
At least I'm going to try to double check.
So I guess the proposed ATM is actually smaller in scale than what's currently there?
It's approximately about the same size. I understand,
Not as-
but the access to it is on the faces rather than the ends.
Okay.
Yeah, the ATM installers would like to start their work on 10/6.
How about the color of the ATM? Same white?
White or blue? One or the other. I don't know for sure.
Could you find out that information on other banks that we've done in the town center overlay? We've always considered what the colors are. Try to stick with not loud, abrasive colors, things like that.
Fresco blue or white. I can tell you that.
Yeah, can you, but they normally have a rendering of what it would look
Mhm.
like, because I mean, they're wrapping it again. Normally we
Right.
get a picture of the rendering.
I'm going to wind up doing
Okay,
it.
Yeah, so if it's something that's similar to what's there right now, that would be just a helpful piece of information we can see.
Look, pretty close to identical.
Okay.
You won't see much difference.
Yeah, we did have two good examples of that. There was a project in Market 32 Plaza now. There was quite a bit of rendering of that ATM that's in the parking lot. And then the ATM by the Benjamin Moore paint store too. So that's kind of standard.
well, we'll put it for tentative on the 29th.
Is the submission have to be in?
The 17th, if you could do it.
Yeah.
We'd probably accept it up to the 19th, but we're really pushing for the 17th.
Sure.
Submit.
Okay,
Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time.
thank you. I'll talk
Yeah.
with Lauren Clark. Okay?
Okay. All right, that wraps up discussion items. Moving on to reports.
So for reports, I did just want to let you guys know that Mr. Roth is also looking at improvements to the Trusco on State Street between like where Sweet Frog used to be and the intersection of Balltown Road and State Street. There's a Trusco. The reason we're bringing it up now is just to give you a sneak peek. They are asking for the blue lighting, kind of like Saves My Chicken asked for. It is in a different zoning district, so the code is a little different, but I would recommend that you drive by and visualize that.
That's on the building now?
No, they're asking for it to go on the line.
I have, what I did do,
I'm confused. I thought this
this
was
is
closed.
basically,
It's just a report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is, I think this is just a prelude. It's a discussion item. You can give those things.
Take a look. Yeah, I'm just giving him a preview for the next meeting because it didn't make it on. Yes. Yeah.
I don't.
And this is just a rendering.
So what actually is happening here, Laura, at this location?
They're just requesting lighting upgrades.
This is on the corner of.
State Street. Yeah, way down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike, you're actually not allowed to speak now.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted, it's a formality at this point. We move off the
Okay.
discussion items. Okay. So
You can listen, yes.
So what is the one?
There was one that was closing, I thought I heard.
At Trusco?
I thought he said there was one closing. I don't know whether it's. Yeah, that's.
No.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, he was looking at the timeline, closing so they can do renovations. So this Trusco is doing internal renovations that were approved by the building department. But Clark and I will not approve that lighting. That has to go to the planning board. That kind of lighting has to go to the planning board. So, the other thing that we have heard about this site, which, you guys can take a look at, I don't know if it would be appropriate for a lighting upgrade, but there's a chunk of sidewalk missing here. So Mansion Square built their sidewalk and the gas station built their sidewalk, but Trusco does not have a sidewalk. I do not know why. But, Complete Streets was looking at the tenant change for who was going into Sweet Frog? We just looked at them. Yeah, the nail salon. And they made that point to me that there's a break in the sidewalk on Balltown Road right there. And then
So this is option.
yeah. And so, but then they're also looking at the, I don't know what you call it, like the rope lighting. So I know you guys are familiar. This is just a heads up. It'll be on the meeting, next month. So be thinking about it. And then the other thing I have for reports is I'm very sorry for the confusion. You guys got the draft packet and Mizan Bakery was in the draft packet. Ms. Kafaga did not realize that after the zoning board use variance approval, she has to come back for planning board site plan approval. She thought she was only coming back to the planning board for the signs. So her signs weren't ready. So when I was talking to her, I thought she just wasn't ready, but she was just talking about her signs. So we pulled her off the planning board, but she actually has a pretty hard deadline in October 1st. The site plan has not changed. The use variance was granted. I think we've already gone through a number of things. And because I didn't understand what she was saying and she didn't understand what I was saying, I may have majorly disadvantaged her. So I am asking if you guys are okay. You had there wasn't really that much updates, but you had all the information in your draft packet. You could go back and look at it. I'm requesting that it be okay if we bring a tentative resolution for September 29th, because we actually only have one meeting in October so it would be a big delay. Okay. One thing we talked a couple of things. You guys, you've seen the site plan. She's amenable to, banking that parking that the county could, in the future, if she needed it, that's where we could have the bank parking if it gets super busy and everybody loves it. So she'll just, anything that you guys kind of need or think about, you can email her. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm comfortable with it being pretty complete unless you had some problems. Email me. Is that okay, Nancy?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Okay, nothing further on reports. Any commission business?
Any updates on the Rivers Ledge sign?
They have been talking to us, right, Clark?
They have talked a little bit, right, but we don't have a big update. But they've submitted some, let's call them the beginnings of signage drawings. They're not dimensioned, they're kind of renderings,
They
but
didn't
we're,
actually even reflect what they built.
right.
Okay,
But
I remember that now.
we're talking.
Yeah.
So they're submitting a design for the sign, but it doesn't match what's there.
Well, we told them they needed to submit a building permit, and I think they submitted what they had envisioned before they built the sign. It doesn't actually match what they did install. So yeah, we're working on them for that one. And I was gonna bring it up, but when we're looking at the entrance to Niskuna Harbor, it's very likely that they would like a monument sign too, so we should probably get out in front of that one. Yeah.
Curious.
Mhm.
I was 3900 State Street had the public hearing at the town board. There was just the brief presentation. Nobody spoke on it. Very little dialogue by the town. So I think that's in their court right now.
I'm going to try and have a more robust discussion with them at the agenda meeting tomorrow night to get on record because
the town?
you guys remember, yeah, at the town board, the CAC recommended a pause deck. You guys didn't actually dive into the environmental impacts really, but they need to kind of flesh out what they want their next step to be.
Yep.
And one of the other takeaways is that when those presentations are done, it's done again by the applicant. So we're wondering if maybe on certain ones, maybe have a representative from the planning board that might speak on behalf of what the project is being presented and all of the factors that are in there to try to summarize, the impact of what the recommendation is, the environmental impact, some of the recommendations to kind of summarize it from that perspective.
I do that at the agenda meetings, but not everyone from the public watches the agenda meetings.
Right.
So like to have a more balanced public hearing, that's what we were thinking.
Okay. All right. There's no further business. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Ms. Gold,
Second.
second by Ms. String. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned at 8:59 PM. Thank you.